Today is July 14th. I'm out on the road picking up supplies for the boat building session. One of the things I realized when I went down in the cellar and checked my supply of epoxy is that it's over 10 years old. Back when we put the raft away, that's pretty much when we finished most of our epoxy work. So I had everything in a milk crate, just kind of squirreled away in a corner, and I realized it probably has a shelf life. So I did a little searching online, and 1 year is the shelf life for epoxy resin. This has been sitting closer to 10, so I'm not so sure I want to get involved with using old epoxy, getting everything all fitted and glued up, and then it doesn't cure, it doesn't harden. So that'd be a big disappointment. So I needed to go get some more epoxy resin, some more hardener. I'm gonna be working in some very harsh, hot conditions. So I got a slow hardener, and that's used for really hot climates because the curing process is exothermic. If you already start off with warm epoxy and warm hardener and it's warm out, this stuff will kick in like 4 or 5 minutes. You don't have time to work it into where you want to put it. So the slow hardener takes a lot longer to cure. I think it's a minimum operating temperature is like 80 degrees. So it's likely that I'll be just slightly above that, so I'll get the longest cure time out of this as I can. So I want to have time to glue up the keel, manipulate the wood to how I need to get it to go, make sure it's in alignment, clamp it down, all the things. So I needed a slow resin hardener so that I would have that working time. The thickening agent that is used to make the epoxy resin into a thicker paste, that has a longer shelf life because that's just ground up glass or wood. What do they call it? Wood flour, I think they call it. There's a lot of different slang words for it, but it's a material you add to your epoxy once you mix it up, and it thickens it up. Ideally, I want it to be about as thick as peanut butter, maybe a little bit more runny than that, but not much more, so that when you apply your epoxy resin and you clamp it, you'll get some squeeze out. You want that, but you don't want it to be so thin or tight, clamped so tightly that you squeeze out all the epoxy. So the thickening agent acts kind of like a bedding compound as well as an adhesive. So any irregularities in the surface that you're clamping together to glue, it'll fill the voids. So that's I got a fresh batch of that, even though I have some. I'm not sure how much I have left. I have all different types depending on what I'm doing. But those supplies are basically, the shelf life is indefinite until they're mixed. So I have options there, but I don't have a good bead on quantities. So I got some laminating filler, a big container of that. So I'll be good for what I'm going to do today, or actually tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to get to doing any glass work today because it's already like 10:30. I'm still not home yet, and I need to pack my lunch up for work and get that all lined up before I do anything. And I also have to prep the surfaces and check the alignment of the keel. There are some tick marks in the hull that I can measure against to see if they're running parallel. If not, I have to redraw those lines until I get them parallel so that both hulls aren't, they're not working against each other. So I'm going to check the layout lines first. I have to prep the surface. I have to give it a light sanding, and I have to clean it with either acetone or alcohol to get a nice surface to adhere to. And then I got to lay some of the strips down, kind of plan my activity, lay down the strips, get them cut to the lengths that I need, and then come up with a clamping strategy so that it can hold it into place. I've done some research online to other boat builders who have put a keel on their Louisiana pirogues, and a lot of them, what they do is they use a pneumatic brad nailer to shoot a nail through the strip that's going to be the keel and into the hull to just lock it in place. That way you can set the air pressure so you can run the brad just a little bit deeper, and you can use stainless steel brads, so you just leave them in there. Some might poke through the inside of the hull, and those I can just snip off with a pair of dikes and maybe round them off a little bit with a Dremel abrasive wheel. But those can basically stay in there because they're stainless. You won't get iron poisoning. If you use steel nails, you get what's called iron poisoning, and that'll cause rot. So I don't want to use any iron. I want to use stainless. But I don't have a pneumatic brad nailer. My neighbor Steve may have one I can borrow, but I need to borrow a compressor as well. So he uses that on his job every day, so I doubt he's going to be able to let me to have that. Unless I get everything laid up and ready to go, and I say, hey, can I borrow it for an hour? And just bang everything out. So that might be a good option. The other option is just kind of figure out some other way to clamp it so that I'm not beckoning at the beckoning of somebody's tool that I borrowed that I have to get it back and it might not be done yet. So I'm just ranting right now on some ideas. So clamping strategy is important because epoxy resin is viscous. If you clamp it too hard or there's some side forces, things can drift off as it sits. You don't want that. I was thinking maybe some L brackets, which I have plenty of. I could use Gorilla tape and make like a little guide so that they can't move. And when it's all done curing, I can just pull the tape off. With epoxy resin, you can use plastic. It won't stick to plastic. So I can use that as a liner, so anything that I do use as a guide won't get glued up to the stem that I'm applying, or the keel that I'm working on. So there's a lot of different strategies. I got to think them through. Also, I do have a couple of respirators down in the cellar, but I'm thinking, hey, if that epoxy's 10 years old, that respirator's 10 years old, chances are the rubber housing that the filter goes in is probably brittle, it won't seal up as well, or it's just gross and nasty from being sitting in the cellar for so long. So I got some new respirators. I also got some new nitrile gloves. Epoxy, uncured epoxy, do not want to get it in your lungs or in your hands or on your skin because it's an exothermic reaction. When it cures, you can get burns. Plus, it's not good for your skin. You could pull in some kind of poison into your skin, and I've had overexposure at one point where I got some on my hand. I had like a wart on top of a wart on top of a wart. It was nasty. And there's some resin I got on me I didn't realize was there, and my skin is like, well, what the heck is this? And it had a reaction. So I don't want to get anything on me. So despite the hot weather, this is a long pants procedure, a long sleeve shirt procedure, a mask procedure, safety glasses procedure, the whole 9 yards. So there's one thing you should never compromise on for any project is your health. If you're going to create dust, wear a respirator. If you got things flying around, wear safety glasses. If you got some sharp edges, wear gloves. You know what to do, folks. So don't be too rushed to get something done and then hurt yourself, because you're not going to enjoy the work if you're nursing an injury. So I'm out and about getting all these supplies. Got some clamps. I got epoxy resin and hardener. I got fillers. I got some sandpaper. I got some micro cleaning cloths. I got all kinds of stuff. I also got a canvas drop cloth that I can lay over things so I don't make a huge mess if I spill something. So there's a lot of prep work before you actually do boat work. You got to make sure you're doing everything right and you're thinking smart and you have a strategy and you got all the tools lined up, and you don't struggle as you go, because once you start gluing stuff, it ain't gonna wait for you. If you got it in the wrong spot, it's gonna harden, and you're gonna have to struggle to recover from that. So there's a lot you have to think of ahead of time to get this type of work done. I've done it before, so I know I'm familiar with the process. I just haven't done it in a while, so it's the mixing and all that. You kind of get back in your groove because there's a certain technique to mixing that when it's mixed. Basically, use like a popsicle stick with a flat end, and you kind of stir the epoxy, scraping the sides and the bottom of the mixing vessel, and it takes about a minute, and the color changes a little bit. There's some very subtle changes when you're mixing the two parts, because it's one part epoxy, one part hardener, and there's some pumps that you put on the containers that dispenses it, in the correct quantities. So that's important. You don't want to get your quantities wrong. I used to mix it with measuring cups, but then you have stuff that's stuck in the cup as residuals, and you're not sure about your ratios are 100% done. Or you can use specialized mixing cups that you throw away each time, or you wait till the epoxy cures and you clean it out. Those are actually quite easy to clean out once it's hardened. But it can get expensive. I find it's easier just to get a stack of cups from the grocery store, mix up the epoxy, and then throw them away. So you're not, there's less work involved. So that's my plan for today. I don't know if I'm definitely not going to get to do any fiberglass work today. There's too much prep work to do, and I leave for work in like 2-3 hours, so I really can't get too involved with any fiberglassing yet. But I can do all the groundwork today and just hit the ground running tomorrow. Here's one final thought. This is kind of probably the best one. So when you're trying to get something done and it's a big project and you have limited time, free time available, you want to maximize your free time. So that's a good time if you have a partner who may feel ignored. Why spend an hour cooking a meal when you can go out to dinner or go out to lunch, go to a pizza, order a pizza out together, go have a pizza. Don't ignore your partners and your family, or include them if you can in the project, because then you get more buy-in. Hey, let's work on the project today. That was fun, or I enjoyed that. So it doesn't have to be like you do all the work yourself and you ignore everybody in your life. Include them in the project. If you find that it's you have to pause your personal hygiene so you can get some work done, don't shave every day. There's another 10 minutes of free time you can work on your boat or whatever project you're on. You might want to set up an outdoor shower because you're going to get so gross. You just want to purge all the dust off you before you even step in the house. So there's different things you can do to make the work smarter, and include your family and friends, your spouse, your partners, your pets. They might just want to sit under the tree in the shade just so they're near you. Give them a big bowl of water and some treats. They're like, where the heck are they? Where's my master? He's never around anymore. So think about making the process enjoyable for all the people around you as well. Don't run a cutoff wheel at 3 in the morning or do arc welding in the street at 2 in the morning. Be courteous as well if you can. Don't create a lot of dust with someone who just hung up their laundry. So you got to kind of think outside of the box, except just to be, you're laser focused on what you got to do to get something done. But there's peripheral, repercussions. So you just be cognizant of that as you go. I mean, this is like extra advice. You don't have to follow it if you don't want to, but sooner or later a neighbor's going to say, hey, I was trying to have a sit-down picnic with my friends, and there's all these fumes from, whatever you were doing over in your yard, and there's dust everywhere. My laundry's all itchy now. Try to be cool with your neighbors and the surrounding people in your neighborhood, that you're not causing your project any discomfort for them. Matter of fact, you might even want to include them as well. Invite them over for a couple of beers, show them what you're doing so they understand. You might say, hey, what's a good time for me to work on this when I'm not disturbing you? Do you have a time when you're sitting down for dinner? You want me to be quiet? I can do that. There's been folks behind me, they have a big 4th of July party. I was ready to make all kinds of noise. They got all their friends over there. They got a barbecue grill going. I'm like, you know what? I can work on this tomorrow. These guys are having a nice time. I don't want to ruin it. So you got to think smart. You got to get some buy-in from your neighbors. You can't make everything you do all about your project and your things, your objectives. Think of your neighbors. Think of your spouses, your pets, your family, your work. Let your boss know, hey, a little distracted right now. I got a big project going on, so I might have to come in late an hour or two here and there because I'm doing fiberglass. I can't just stop in the middle of it. Put your knowledge out there, what you're doing to other people, so they have some buy-in, they understand your situation. They'll give you a little breathing space. They might actually give you a little extra time off to do your things, and they might actually want to chip in and help. So just my opinion on how to keep it a smooth process. You can do whatever you want. But you'll learn as you go what's a good way to do things and what's a bad way to do things. So just keep that in mind. Okay, rant over. I'm pulling into my street. The whole time I've been talking to you, the car's been driving me around. I have full self-driving. It's supervised, so I'm watching. So as you can see, hands-free, car's driving around. So if you ever think of getting yourself an electric vehicle, you should consider getting a Tesla, because it has supervised full self-driving at the moment. You have to watch what you're doing, but it does a great job, and you can look around. You got to watch the road, but you can also enjoy your surroundings, and you can have a uninterrupted conversation with your passenger or with your friends online, and it's kind of a cool thing. So there's that. So I'm about ready to pull in. The car's going to park. Let's see if it's going to back in or pull in. Every once in a while it surprises me and it backs in, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's going to back in. I can tell by it's heading for the curb. So this has been a recent development. It usually just pulls in and parks right by the charger, but now it's back. This is hands-free. I'm not doing this. So I don't know if you can look out the windows and see where I'm going to back up right against where my wife's car is, and it's going to stop right by the charger so I can plug back in and get some more electrons for my trip to work. So here we go. We're here. It's magic. Thanks for listening. Everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.